Welcome back to the Global Business Report here on Arise News. Now let's cross live to New York, where Caroline Woods, our U.S. business correspondent, is waiting to discuss markets opening and the latest business news making headlines. Hi, Caroline. So let's begin with politics. Election day was exactly a week ago, but at least one state still doesn't have definite winners. What's going on?
Yes, most of the hundreds of midterm races produced clear winners and losers by last Tuesday night, but others have been too close to call, including Arizona and Florida. Now, we have made progress with results in Arizona. Democrat Kristen Sinema is the apparent winner of the Senate race. Republican Martha McSally conceded defeat, bringing an end to the long-fought battle over the seat held by retiring GOP Senator Jeff Flake. Now, Kristen Sinema is the first woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate from the state of Arizona and the first Democrat that the Senate elected to the Senate in 30 years. So that's a big win for the Democrats. This comes after Republicans launched a lawsuit challenging a mail-in ballot counting practice in 2 Arizona counties that allowed voters to fix issues for up to 5 days after Election Day. Now, Florida is a different story. We still don't have winners there. State officials have been scrambling to review more than 8 million ballots by Thursday. That's because state law mandates recounts in elections where the margin of victory is within half a percentage point. A machine recount began over the weekend in the race between outgoing Republican Florida Governor Rick Scott and Democratic U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, with another recount underway for the Florida gubernatorial race. So we have lots of recounts there. But President Trump has urged Florida election officials to end the recount and declare his fellow Republicans the winners. Without providing any evidence, he also cast doubt on the recount process. He said, quote, "An honest vote count is no longer possible. Ballots showed up out of nowhere, and that many ballots are missing or forged." He said, quote, "An honest vote count, is no longer possible, must go with election night." Now, Republicans are eager to cement victories because Florida is a key battleground state, but Democrats are really eyeing that governor's seat. I should also add that Georgia's gubernatorial race also remains undecided. Several U.S. House of Representative races are still too close to call as well. That's after Democrats seized control of the House in last week's elections. Now, in terms of the Senate race, though, the results from Florida and Arizona will not affect Republican control of the 100-member Senate.
Caroline, thank you. Well, now we have to turn to the Jamal Khashoggi case. President Donald Trump's national secretary advisor weighed in on the case earlier today. Can you tell us what he had to say?
Very soon.
Yes, we're talking about U.S. National Security Advisor John Bolton. He spoke to reporters in Singapore today and suggested that an audio tape of Jamal Khashoggi's murder may not implicate Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. He said he did not listen to that tape himself, but that it, quote, "does not directly implicate bin Salman." That's according to CNBC. Now, the U.S. isn't the only country with access to the tapes. Others are scrutinizing them as well. Turkey's president sent audio that allegedly captures the killing of the Washington Post Saudi journalist to Canada, Great Britain, France, Germany, and Saudi Arabia. Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau confirmed yesterday that Canada's intelligence agencies have listened to the tapes. He said that he was discussing the next steps, or what the next steps should be with Canada's allies. Bolton said Saudi Arabian officials are still investigating the case, and the U.S. will follow that very closely. He said the president has made it clear that he wants to get to the bottom of this, and as we know, President Trump has said that outright. Now, Bolton is attending a regional conference in Singapore, and his comments come as the New York Times reports that a member of the kill team instructed a superior over the phone to tell your boss, believed to be Prince Mohammed, that the mission had been accomplished. The report says the recording is seen by intelligence officers as some of the strongest evidence linking the power behind the Saudi throne to the murder, citing 3 people familiar with the recording. Now, Khashoggi was a former palace insider who turned critic, and he was strangled to death at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on October 2nd. So more than a month later, we're still really trying to piece together exactly what happened.
Well, Caroline, there's a lot of evidence there that isn't looking very good for the Saudis. but hopefully we just have to wait and see what happens. Now, there are reports that Amazon has finally chosen where its second headquarters is going to be. What's the verdict, Caroline?
Well, a source told Reuters that Amazon will announce its second headquarters today, actually. It's still early here, but we have yet to hear from Amazon. However, that source said the e-commerce giant will select New York City and Northern Virginia for its split second headquarters. This ends a more than year-long contest that has seen frenzied bidding from locations across North America. More specifically, Amazon will reportedly put the headquarters, split the headquarters evenly between New York City's Long Island City neighborhood and the borough of Queens, not too far away from here, and then the Crystal City section of Arlington County, which is just across the Potomac River from Washington, D.C., so just south of the nation's capital. It's about a 15-minute drive. No big surprise here. The New York Times reported last week that Amazon was finalizing plans to select both of these cities, and we did talk about that last week. Now, Amazon's plan to split its headquarters evenly, dubbed HQ2, between these two cities will boost its presence around New York and Washington, D.C., as it really seeks to gain a recruiting edge over other Silicon Valley tech firms. Now, the source told Reuters, though, that Amazon will also announce a significant investment in one other city in addition to revealing the two HQ2 locations. So we'll definitely be on the lookout for that third city. Now, back in September of last year, Amazon had originally said it would spend more than $5 billion and add up to 50,000 workers at a single location for its second headquarters. It then received more than 200 proposals from cities and states promising billions of dollars of tax breaks and other, other
incentives.
Kind of preferential treatment in exchange for Amazon's HQ2. The bidding locales also handed over infrastructure, labor, and other data that could prove useful in other ways for the world's top online retailer. Now, the headquarters split will give Amazon more diversity for recruiting and could also help lessen congestion and cost of living increases that would have gone along with just one bigger office. A Brookings Institution report said that the particular neighborhoods chosen by Amazon for its HQ2, Long Island City and Queens, and then Crystal City in Virginia, offer lower rents and more attractive zoning than central business districts nearby, namely here in Manhattan. However, the split could also mean economic benefits for the hosts might be muted relative to expectations, especially given the selected city's size versus some of the other contenders. So we'll be waiting an official announcement from Amazon today, but it doesn't sound like the news will come as much of a shock. But I'm also very interested to hear about that potential third location and where exactly that might be.
Well, Caroline, we're interested to hear about the third location as well. Now, quarterly results from the world's biggest home improvement retailer are out this morning ahead of the opening bell. What did Home Depot have to say?
Yeah, Home Depot offered lots of good news this morning. The home improvement retailer, which, as you said, is the biggest in the world, reported quarterly earnings and revenue that topped Wall Street's expectations. Meanwhile, same-store sales, which are sales at established stores, those rose 4.8% globally and 5.4% here in the United States. Home Depot's CEO said the company saw continued strength across the store as well as healthy growth in its digital business. Home Depot has really done a good job of bringing customers to the store for hands-on experiential experiences, but clearly doing well on the digital front as well. Now, analysts have also speculated that the chain may be gaining market share in the appliance business because Sears, where many others may have bought appliances in the past, they've been closing stores and, of course, declared bankruptcy not too long ago. Now, in terms of their outlook, which many investors look at more closely than, quarterly results, which are kind of looking back, Home Depot raised its sales outlook for the full year. So it's showing little sign of a slowing down despite concerns about softening existing home sales, hurting results. Home Depot shares jumped as much as 3% in pre-market trading last I checked, so it could be a bright spot today. I'll also be keeping a close eye on Home Depot's smaller competitor Lowe's. We'll see how this upbeat report affects its stock price as well.
Well, it wasn't very good news for Apple as stocks tanked yesterday, with Apple leading the way lower. Caroline, how are the futures positioned to kick off today? Could Home Depot lead a rebound?
It just might. Taking a look at futures and early trading, they are pointing to a higher open, though we still have some time, about 45 minutes to go before the opening bell opens. Yeah, 45 minutes. Let's see, the Dow futures are about 0.3% higher, so 78 points higher. The NASDAQ about 0.6% higher, and the S&P is about 0.5%. S&P futures are about 0.5% higher as well. Now, yesterday, as you made mention, the major averages really tumbled. The Dow sunk 600 points, or more than 2%. The NASDAQ lost over 2% as well. S&P lost about 2%. Apple plummeted some 5% after several suppliers cut their forecasts. Of course, the concern is what that means for sales, especially of its iPhones. Goldman Sachs shed more than 7% on a report that Malaysia's finance minister is seeking a full refund on all the fees it paid the bank for arranging billions of dollars of deals for a troubled state fund. So really had a lot of negative factors on the stock market yesterday. I did hear you make mention before coming to me that President Trump did blame the Democrats for the big declines yesterday, saying the prospect of presidential harassment by the Dems is causing the stock market big headaches. As for what's on my radar today, Bloomberg is reporting that U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin and Chinese Vice Premier Liu have resumed talks on trade, and a potential Washington visit by Liu is being considered before Trump and Xi meet later this month at the G20 summit. Also, top U.S. trade officials are reportedly expected to discuss the possibility of imposing tariffs of up to 25% on imported cars and parts today. According to administration officials who spoke to Reuters, the U.S. Commerce Department submitted draft recommendations to the White House on its investigation into whether to impose these tariffs based on national security issues. The White House has pledged not to move forward with imposing tariffs on the EU or Japan as long as it's making constructive progress in trade talks. So keeping an eye on trade. Of course, we'll also watch oil, which fell for an 11th session yesterday, the longest streak on record. Taking a look at oil today, crude is down 1.3% at $59.13 a barrel. Brent, that's U.S. crude. Brent crude is at $69.23 a barrel. That's down 1.3% as well. President Trump has made it clear he wants oil prices to fall, though. He put pressure on OPEC not to cut supply to prop up the market. He even tweeted yesterday, hopefully Saudi Arabia and OPEC will not be cutting oil production. Oil prices should be much lower based on supply. So in terms of some stocks I'm watching today, Apple and Goldman Sachs, of course, will continue to be on my radar. We'll see if they can rebound at all. Also, Kellogg, the packaged food maker, is exploring the sale of its cookie and fruit snacks business as it sharpens focus on its core business. We'll see what that means for the stock. Boeing, Wall Street Journal is reporting that it failed to warn the airline industry about a potentially dangerous feature in its new flight control system that's suspected of playing a role in the fatal Lion Air crash in Indonesia last month. So that could impact the stock. Also keeping an eye on those California wildfires that we talked about yesterday morning. Firefighters are making progress in containing the Northern California wildfire that has become the deadliest in the state's recorded history. However, high winds are expected to fan the flames of the fire burning in Southern California. Last night, President Trump changed his tune on Twitter a bit. Instead of pointing fingers and placing blame. He said, quote, "I just approved an expedited request for a major disaster declaration for the state of California. Wanted to respond quickly in order to alleviate some of the incredible suffering going on. I am with you all the way. God bless all of the victims and families affected. There are certainly so many families affected and several casualties. Now, going back to the market, as I said, it could be a positive day on the street. Futures still looking higher, though based on where the futures are right now, we still have a long way to go to make up for yesterday's sharp decline. But I guess at this point, we'll just take what we can get, right?
Yes, I guess that's what we have to do. Caroline, thank you so much for joining me to discuss this today. Arise US business correspondent there, Caroline Woods. You're watching the Global Business Report here on Arise News. It's time now for another short break.